What I tell people commonly is that marketing doesn't always solve your problems. Sometimes it reveals your problems. Good marketing actually reveals, like, wow, maybe I'm not the best at sales. Maybe I'm not equipped to handle this growth. It's all the parts of building a healthy scaling business that I'm sure that's where you live. Hey guys, Christian Jones here, CEO of TaxProMarketer, and you're in for another great episode of the ProMarketer Podcast. We deal at TaxProMarketer with people in the compliance space, accounting space, bookkeeping space, tax resolution space, and we do digital marketing for this industry. And we like to bring on people that supplement, complement, and also work in this space in a unique or dynamic way. And today is no exception. We've got Chase Damiano of Human at Scale, excuse me, Chase. Chase, you can say, hey.
Hey, what's going on, Christian? Good
Man,
to
it's
see
great
you.
to have you. Yeah, great to have you. Thanks for joining today. And let me give you a little bit of your rap sheet so you don't have to talk about yourself. And then let's kick it off with talking about how Human at Scale got started. But you've been an entrepreneur and operations consultant for a number of years, and you were at Accenture doing technology implementation for large Fortune 100 companies. Then you left to go to Commonwealth Joe. Probably talk about that a little bit. And you got into the cold brew space. Tell me, are you still drinking cold brew today, Chase?
Of course, I'm drinking cold brew. Oh yeah.
I feel like this industry runs on high caffeinated beverages. So you then came back around, it sounds like, to helping small businesses and getting into productivity. And let you pick it up there and tell our audience, Human at Scale. How did that come about?
Yeah, great question. And thanks for having me on. Uh,
Absolutely.
Human at Scale is started out as me independently as a coach and consultant. Really, after my experience with Commonwealth Joe, which we built into a relatively large company, scaled it to a national presence in cold brew. When I stepped out of that company, I was considering, okay, what do I really want to do next with my life, with my career? And I felt a strong calling towards serving other entrepreneurs because the entrepreneurial journey is incredibly challenging. It shows you so much about yourself. It's almost a personal journey as much as it is a business growth story. I spoke with some friends in the Washington, D.C. area who are also entrepreneurs and worked on joining their company fractionally or as a consultant to support their operational growth, which was my primary role at Commonwealth Joe as Chief Operating Officer.
Mm,
Fast forward, that was back in 2019. Fast forward to today, we've had a number of client success stories really helping to teach entrepreneurs to be more proactive in their leadership, install
yeah.
management best practice to their leadership team, as well as creating accountability and operational excellence within their companies.
Mm.
At the beginning of this year, I saw an opportunity to continue that work with accounting and tax professionals. And for the first 5 years of Human at Scale, had some great success stories with accounting and tax professionals. So this year, it's been all in, working exclusively with accounting
Come
and tax
on.
firms.
I love that. And welcome. I mean, not that it's today, it's September as we're recording, but that you've leaned in this year to the tax and accounting space. Welcome. Glad to
Thank you.
have you. And I can say from my seat, and I think everyone else that's listening or watching right now probably will agree, needed, greatly needed. And your experience as an entrepreneur, I'm sure, is a COO of a growing, scaling company. And welcome to, the space, obviously, that's full of entrepreneurs who are great as specialists and technicians, and how you scale and grow a business is tough. And this is mostly going to be about you. And I want to hear about things that Human at Scale is solving. I want to hear about your own experience. I want to hear about successes. I want to hear about all that. I hope people get encouraged and excited by the end of this chat with what they could either see in their own firm change, or maybe even getting your help and getting some tools to figure out if it's a good fit. But as a marketing agency or groups in this space, what I tell people commonly is that marketing doesn't always solve your problems. Sometimes it reveals your problems. Good marketing actually kind of reveals, like, wow, maybe I'm not the best at sales. Maybe I'm not equipped to handle this growth. Maybe I don't have my billing or my delegation, my task management system. Like, it's all the parts of building a healthy scaling business, that I'm sure you are just, that's where you live. And this crowd, our audience, the people we serve, are generally not the big four or the top 100 accounting firms in the world. We work with smaller firms smaller groups. Some are quite large, but generally it's most people are saying, man, how do I really grow this thing? And so this guy's, if you're listening to this today, I think this is a great conversation to have that blends super well with marketing. So with all of that preamble, Chase, let's go to question number one. And that question is, what are the signs to you that a firm owner is becoming a bottleneck or the bottleneck in their business? And what do you see that usually causes that?
Yeah, so you usually what we find, this person lives in some level of pain. They might find themselves in an endless number of meetings or an infinite number of to-dos, or maybe they've tried delegating things to their team members, but it didn't work well. So, hey, I might as well just do it myself. By the way, it's only going to take me 5 minutes to do it. Why would I get, it's going to take them an hour to do it. Why don't I just keep it myself? I'm faster, I'm more efficient. I've tried to bring some best practices or SOPs into the company, but I just can't get people to use it. I've switched my tech stack, my practice management tool, a handful of times. I really just can't find the right one that works for our team. Sometimes in this position, we're looking outside for where the source of the
Hmm.
problem is, whether it's that piece of technology, it's this person or my team, did I even hire the right people, or it's our lack of process. I find the most self-aware accounting firm owners are the ones willing to look within and understand that there might be a skill gap or a knowledge gap they need to skill up on in order to take their firm to the next level. And that piece of self-awareness is examining their own leadership, their own style, and then
Hmm.
seeing themselves not as the hardest working piston that is driving the performance of the engine, but they see themselves more as the mechanic that is able to
Yeah,
tweak the performance of the engine to get the results that they want. And
yeah,
that shift in mindset, that shift in perspective is a huge part of our work at
right.
Human at Scale.
Oh, I love that, and well said. And I think I'm tempted to ask a specific question on what you're seeing in tax and accounting firms. So let's come back to that. Let's stay in the clouds to start, and just keep rolling. I mean, what makes, in your experience, delegation for firm owners specifically, what makes that um, either difficult, hard, or is there a better way for people to approach that? I know you're saying the mechanic part, but what other types of framing would you give to people to help them maybe self-diagnose even now while they're listening? Why is it hard for people to let go of stuff?
Why is it hard to let go? I see this not just with firm owners, but I also see it in a wide variety of industries, a wide variety of verticals where people are building small businesses. And
Yeah.
I think that there is an identity that we have that gets us to
Mm,
gets us to roughly around the 1 million revenue mark. It could
yeah.
be 10 to 20 people. And what got us there was working hard, staying focused, counting on ourselves, trusting ourselves to be able to carry the weight of the organization and get it to that point. But when we try and grow beyond that point, those practices, that identity starts to break down. Because if you're running your own firm, but you are also the most skilled CPA, or you have you're the most, you're the CFO, for instance, on all your client
Right.
engagements, then you've also created yourself a job in addition to running your business. And at that point, it starts causing it starts causing some pressure.
Yeah.
Am I the lead accountant here? Am I the CPA, the CFO of the organization working on all the difficult client problems? And is the business really built around me? Or am I moving into a position where I want to grow and scale beyond myself by recruiting all the right people and building a business operating system that allows the
Mm,
team to perform, not just me? And so,
yeah.
what makes delegation hard is we hold on to that early identity. Again, you got into business likely because you're really, really good at the accounting. You're really, really good at being a tax professional or a CFO. And that mindset, that identity that you have an attachment to, is sometimes very limiting with respect to, okay, if I want to double or triple the size of my business, then how do I
Mm,
shift from being a tactician into being a team leader? And that shift can be
mm,
hard.
mm. Yes, it is. And I can say that even from my seat, it is hard. It's difficult, it's cumbersome. Chase, let me ask a follow-up to that. Would you say that some of the first work you do with people, and this may not be the case, but just tell me what you think, is actually crafting or creating or seeing a vision for their business, for themselves, maybe in their business? Does that kind of come part and parcel with what you do?
Nearly always the firm owners that I work with have some idea of where they want to take the business. They either want to grow it and possibly exit at some point. They want to possibly continue ownership of it, but reduce the amount of working hours that they have. They
Right,
also possibly want to do an ESOP or sell it back to employees. There's
right,
there's a numerous
right.
set. Some folks are looking to retire in the near future. Nearly all of them have a set of goals, a long-term plan that they want to achieve. And we work on that first in a very lightweight way. We talk about long-term vision plus next 12 months and then the next 3 months when we start our engagements. What do you think the goals should be? And we collaborate
Mm,
together on that. Almost all of them are getting ready for some level of operational scale.
okay. So then you get that goal set, you get the vision. Where are we trying to take this thing? Where do they want to take this thing? And you're coming along for the ride to help execute and make it happen, which is your wheelhouse. But what are the like, we're kind of hitting against some of them already, but I'm curious, as you've worked with more both small businesses, but specifically tax and accounting firms as well, are there some common operational issues that hold people back? Which maybe what I'm saying here is they get the vision, they get the idea, but yeah, maybe like you just said, they're the smartest. They're the one with all the knowledge base. They've got all the institutional knowledge. Maybe that's a part of it. But are there other operational things that you're seeing commonly are just in the way of that goal or vision being achieved?
I I I see many of them, but I see five major or most common
Mm,
ones. The first being unclear roles, unclear responsibilities, who owns what client. If we're working with an offshore team, who on the offshore team is working on which client for which function? Are they running payroll? Are they doing APAR? And who owns the client relationship? So anything with respect to what we do. And it's more than just having job
mm,
descriptions for everyone. It is creating a collective knowledge and understanding around, okay, I understand what everyone does here. Number two that I see is ineffective client onboarding. Most
mm.
client onboarding I see is very reactive. New client comes in, we're spinning up different processes or procedures. We're thinking about, okay, who did we bring this to? Sometimes the CEO holds on to the client for too long and then they sort of get stuck there, as opposed to a much more structured or proactive approach that is process driven and can create an
Mm,
exceptional client experience that differentiates you as a firm as opposed to just anyone else. Number three, I see is an inadequate use of practice management tools. Many firm owners that I speak
mm,
with come to me and they start questioning their practice management tool. It doesn't matter which one it is, but they're asking themselves the question, did I pick the right one? And
yeah,
oftentimes what I see is not that they chose poorly, but it's poor adoption. The team really
yeah.
doesn't understand culturally, collectively,
Mm,
how are we using this tool? As an example, what does work mean? What is a task? What is a subtask? And having these internal definitions that these practice management platforms specifically don't define so that you can customize your firm, but making those definitions and it will drive adoption and use of the tool. Number four that
mm,
I see is unclear financial and operating performance. Firm owners, they might know their own financial metrics really well, but they don't really
yeah.
understand how those financial metrics get created. So whether
Mm,
if, for instance, you're a bookkeeping firm, measuring performance on your weekly and monthly bookkeeping, are you making your customer promises? You're trying to close the books in 7 days, 14 days, 25 days, whatever it is. Are you actually meeting that benchmark? And
yeah.
things like utilization, client level profitability, how is the firm actually operating so you can make business decisions? And then last but not least, I see that the CEO personally manages too many clients. And again, this is
Mm,
likely from a pattern where they may have tried to hand off these clients to either other senior accountants or account managers on the team, and maybe it didn't go as well, or
yeah.
that they are special case clients in which maybe the firm owner feels they're the only ones in the firm that can take on. So hard clients tend to cluster around the
Mm.
CEO, continuing to keep them bottlenecked.
Oh man, I bet there's some people that are like, Chase, are you reading my mail right now? Like, come on, man. Like, this hits close to home, but that's the helpful stuff, right? Like having the willingness to work with someone like Chase, or at least address this in yourself and say, no, yeah, that's me. That is me. One thing you brought up there, Chase, was your second point, unclear onboarding processes. I'm just curious to follow up on that. You said process-driven onboarding, which I'm assuming what's common is that most people, it's either intuitive or it's all in their head or it's not an automated or at least stated flow. Tell me about the range. Do you run into people that have great onboarding processes? Does that happen? Or is there most people that don't? Is it something in the middle? What are you finding most commonly around onboarding?
So typically when I see onboarding, it's not working very well. If it was
Yeah,
working very well, they're probably not talking to me as much.
understood. Understood.
Um, but I see when I see this, it's not just designing the process, it is also the coordination of the individuals that are running it. And we can go into automations and
Mm.
APIs that send information in between tools, like if you're going from a contract tool like Ignition or over into practice management like Carbon, there's plenty of that. But I think what is most interesting around this is the experience that we are creating for our
Mm,
clients. And it's not just about the mechanics of the work. Like that's
right.
actually the easy part. I'm talking more about how do we want them to feel? What do we want them to
Mm,
hear? What do we want them to see as a part of this experience? I see that relationship and that connection being a great way to step into that seat and being a trusted advisor and being a great steward of this relationship in addition to doing the accounting and taxes. And
yeah.
that I think is a really interesting area right now with respect to building better onboarding.
Yeah. I love the way you said that. It's starting with the feeling, not just with the, if we want to call them outcomes, really resonates. We've spent a lot of time in our own agency thinking about those things. What's the feeling? What's the, how does it kind of the taste it leaves in your mouth, if you will? And I think a lot of people in this space, not necessarily because they don't care about that, but because they're just running around with their hair on fire. It's not necessarily the question they ask. That's not a common question.
Yeah. And typically, and you're right, because that sort of idea tends to be last. It's not that they've never had that idea, but because
Right.
of the effect of running around and
Right.
feeling disorganized or unstructured in the approach, it can
Right.
never create that experience. So you're right.
Right. Well, and to tie that back to something we tell people really commonly in this space is that when you lose a client, there are times that you've lost that client simply because of performance. Okay, sure. There's a bucket for that. But there's a lot of other buckets. And one of the major ones is not that our clients, as they're serving their customers, are just not doing their job. It's the feeling that another CPA or accountant or tax preparer or bookkeeper created through their sales process and then onboarding, or the dangling carrot of onboarding if they haven't quite closed. It's, hey, I'm picking up and moving to another place. And the hard part about that is a lot of times when people go to the where they think the grass is greener, it's actually not, but it's the perception. It's the perception that like I'm being treated like a VIP. This is scratching all the itches of what I kind of want to feel. And sometimes there's performance to match. You want to have both, of course. You want to deliver effective, amazing services, but there's something lacking. It feels like not on the side of the equation of do you actually know how to do your job? I think most people listening to this are like, I'm a pro. I know how to do this stuff. But can you actually create that feeling that bonds your clients to you? I love that. And I know you said five things, that's just one, but I think that one stands out in unclear roles and all of that. And let's maybe go there next with a follow-up on unclear roles, responsibilities. If I'm putting myself in the shoes of some of our clients and thinking of people, thinking of conversations, there's definitely different types of leaders in our space. And in every business, in any industry, there's different types of leaders, but you have people in our space that are really good at details, really good at details. So how do you take someone that's really detail oriented and thorough and get them to help have a team that's accountable without being a micromanager? How do we do that?
That's a good question. When I see stories of exceptional accountants get promoted to accounting manager. And what that accounting manager does in relationship with their team is oh so important. Per a previous part of this conversation, if the lens is purely and only technical, then
Right.
a relationship will exist where it's most likely the accounting manager is still the best accountant on the team, which
Mm-hmm.
causes a mentality of here's my junior team, but they're really hard to delegate to because they can't get things right. Won't do it like me. And that type of relationship will bottleneck that accounting manager, and work will flow up to that accounting manager. What the shift that I invite for such an accounting manager is to shift from instead of being an expert to be the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So it's understanding that your gift is the accounting and you are the expert, and that is what made you accounting manager. But it is through the enablement of your staff that allows you to be more successful in your position. So, typical
Mm.
structures that I invite for folks leading teams is just very, very lightweight accountability structures. Weekly meeting with your team, weekly one
Yeah.
on ones with every team member. In your one on ones, as the leader, you're doing 20% of the talking. They're doing 80% of the talking because the
Interesting.
purpose is this is a forum for your direct report to come talk to you about their work, their issues, their challenges. It's all about them. You're coming into a state into this meeting as in service to them. These are their responsibilities that maybe they're doing really well at and maybe they need to get better at. And so
Yeah.
instead of taking work off their plate and putting it back on yours, ask yourself the question, how can I keep the work with my junior team and enable them by giving them the tools that they need to be successful? There's
Right.
also a piece of accountability, which is separating yourself from being the path of least resistance for your team to have their challenges solved. So, this is speaking to
Mm.
anyone who feels they are stuck in Slack or Teams messages all day, answering questions from the team. Hey, look at this. Will you view this? Where do I find this? If that's you, then the trick here, the awareness you need to have is that you are the path of least resistance for your team to have their problem solved. So if they have
Yeah.
an issue or experience any pain, the default is, well, I could just message you. Instead of going to Google, instead of going to a training, instead of looking at an SOP somewhere, it's actually faster, better, easier to message you, and you always have an opinion.
Yeah.
That keeps leaders stuck. Instead, find ways to disconnect that. A very easy way to do that is to, instead of trying to solve problems over Teams or Slack, have an end of day meeting. Hey, I'm willing to help you with your problem. Come meet me at the end of the day. In many cases, it just gets resolved because you're also teaching your team to be resourceful.
Yeah. Well, and I love that because that end of day meeting even feels like, you're talking about teacher, it feels like open hours for a professor, right? It's like, hey, pop into my office. I'm here if you need me. But this also takes trust between you and your team. Because obviously that's the scariest part, right? Like the scariest part is um, maybe there's other components to it, but do you have a team that you can rely on? Or can you get them there? So can you speak to that? Like maybe if it's even a specific example, if you have one, someone that's the linchpin or the bottleneck that gets to a place of having trustworthy team members. Is that possible? Mostly like for the people that are skeptical of that couldn't be me, Chase. I can't be there. Have you seen that happen? Someone that's just drowning that gets trustworthy, good, loyal, competent team members in place and then gets to step away and be the professor? Does that happen?
It does happen. If you think about some of the largest firms out there, at some point they've had to have that breakthrough. At some point they've
Hmm.
had to release that piece of themselves where they have to have all the fingers and all the pies, that they're only relying on themselves. And they have to get, fundamentally, they have to get to a position where they have trusted leadership team, they have a trusted
Hmm.
set of accountants and tax professionals that are able to do the work, trusted operations people that can run the machine. Uh, and so just from example, you can't run an enormous company
Right,
by building it around yourself. Like you
right.
will hit a limit. So yes, it is possible.
I love that. And another follow-up there, just something that I'm thinking about. related to our own company and things we bring up with our employees, things that have been helpful to go over from time to time, but we have them in place. Can you speak to having company values? Maybe vision and mission and all of that's related too, of course, but it's specifically values of like, how are we going to function together? What are the boundaries or the, things we're not going to do or things we're going to be about? Does that factor into either your process or things that you find? If those are in place, you're off to the right start. And what are some values even that you might suggest people consider for their firm?
Sometimes values gets involved in the type of work that we do. And the
Mm,
reason for that is I see values definition as a tool that solves a problem, as
yeah.
opposed to something as like, okay, every company should have values. We all know that many companies
Mm,
do not care to live by their values. We know we've
yes.
endless examples of people doing a great value session, bringing a strategy person in. Now we have great values and companies do nothing with them. So, knowing that pattern, values to me are brought in to solve a specific problem. And the specific problem is a cultural problem. If you can't figure
Mm,
out why it just you're trying to gain clarity on why is it that I know that this person is a great fit for this company and this person is not. And maybe you've collected a team of individuals where you have really great performers and
mm,
great cultural fits, and then maybe
mm,
not great performers or not cultural fits, but you don't have the conscious language to determine why. That's a
mm,
great way to bring in values because you'll find that the values that your best fits in the company, if you're able to define them, then now you're aware of them. Great. We can bring in more people that express these values. And then you also have
mm,
a lens. This is why these past performers have not been a great fit for the company. And it's because they haven't as much adhered to the values. But I also
mm.
believe that values must be exercised and they are hiring and firing tools. Full stop.
Yeah.
If you really want
Yeah.
to live your values, if you actually care about what values are, you will hire people based on their expression of the values, and you will terminate people that do not express your company values. If you're
Wow.
not willing to do that, then the values exercise, I don't think has as much legs as it could.
It becomes just kind of a ritual that doesn't have much meaning if you're going to put those in place, is what I'm hearing,
That's
without
right.
actually following them.
Right. It's like, why do
Mm,
we do this exercise?
yeah,
Cool if we put it on our website and our customers look at it, but values are meant to be lived, not words on a wall.
that's good. That's really good. Well, let me bring you back to some of the threads you brought up before I took you down a rabbit trail. And we talked about rhythms last, and you mentioned end of day meetings. Are there other weekly or monthly rhythms that can help a firm that's kind of okay? Maybe they've got their processes in place, maybe they've got good team members in place, or maybe they're just fighting to get there. Like, what are those weekly or monthly rhythms that help a firm run and operate smoothly?
I'm a really big fan of the level 10 meeting from EOS. This is
Yeah, sure.
popularized in a book called Traction by Gino Wickman.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, this is a 90-minute, once a week meeting with the full team. You bring your full company aboard, and there's a structure that you go through where you're celebrating success, talking about goals and KPIs,
Mm,
customer and employee updates, and then really getting into issues that are happening within the company. And the purpose is to resolve those issues in the meeting. And many people balk at the length of 90 minutes per week. I don't have time for 90 minutes a week. Our team meetings are 45 minutes and we just pop in, hey, what do we want to talk about today? I promise that you are holding that 90-minute meeting at some point throughout the week, but it's probably
yes.
asynchronously or it's ad hoc with other team members or team members that you
Right.
can't see having meetings with each other to know what is going on. So think of the L10 as almost a weekly control tower where you're literally synchronizing the entire team, reviewing the same set of information, and then creating action that goes into next week. In addition
Mm,
to those, I'm a big fan of daily stand ups. And I
mm,
think this is very applicable in accounting firms. The reason I think that is because we were talking earlier about the practice management issue, where We don't necessarily know how we're using this tool well, or maybe adoption in the tool is not as great. A great way to help encourage people to track their time well, update their tasks, project out work, complete their triage, is to just run a daily stand up. The daily stand up just suggests, okay, what's everyone working on today? By acting and doing this, whether or not the practice management platform is updated or not, they folks will all of a
Mm.
sudden start reporting, okay, this is what I plan to do. They don't want to be, no one wants to be the only person showing up to the meeting that has no idea what they're doing for the day.
Right. Totally.
And so all of a sudden, just by paying attention and running a 15-minute call, 20-minute call every morning at the start of the day, all of a sudden a lot of these issues start getting fixed. At some
Mm.
point, you can just start sharing your screen. Hey, here's my, here's a carbon view that has a view of everything that's happening today across all the people, and that becomes your meeting. You just
Mm.
continue to pay attention to it every day, or have a director of ops or operations manager run that for you.
Mm. Okay. I love that. That's great. So I hear L10s, which if that's a new concept for you, definitely can recommend Traction. Like Chase said, great book. There's lots of actual EOS as the system implementers too, that if you want, and I think that's kind of Chase, right? Would you consider yourself an EOS implementer?
I am not a official certified EOS implementer,
Okay. Okay.
but I've been practicing many of the tools before Traction even came out as a book.
You're a disciple.
I'm a believer of the
Yes.
methodology. I'll end
I
up
love it.
working with folks that either don't value some of the rigidity that sometimes EOS will
Yeah.
bring, or maybe they've tried it and it didn't work as well as they want to, and are looking
Okay.
for a little bit more custom tailored to their firm.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'm a acolyte or disciple as well of those same systems, and we adapt things a
Cool.
little bit in our purposes. But there's so much wealth of wisdom and information in those materials. So I'm glad they got a shout out today. Okay, but this whole thing needs people, right? This whole system, this whole thing that we're talking about creating and fixing needs people, talent. And what I hear a lot, a lot is Christian, I can't find people that stay. I can't find people that stick. I think there's some truth in our industry that when it comes to the smaller independent firms, I think there's lots of accounting grads. I think there's a lot of accounting grads in our country right now and internationally with offshoring, of course, there's a lot more. But a lot of them go to either bigger firms or want to start their own firms if they're going that direction. So I hear that as a constraint or a complaint that, man, hiring is tough. But what I hear you say is that maybe there's some connection between systems and talent acquisition or the feeling that there's not enough talent. Can you flesh that out for us a little bit?
Yep. I think in terms of team capacity, one of the results that many clients get with working with human at scale is they have an expanded team capacity. And what I mean by
Mm.
that is that they can take on more clients without increasing headcount,
Mm.
without being overwhelmed. And that is the
Yeah.
point, is so much information can be, so much time can be wasted in endless back and forths, lack of clarity. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. Who's working on my team? And that amount of time adds up a lot.
Yes.
And in fact, it doesn't happen all at once. It's buffered in every day. So what it
Yeah.
causes is that the firm runs slower than it could. So
Mm.
when I think about systems that solve talent shortages, it's like, well, why can't we figure out as a team to just clean all that up? Why don't we get exceptionally efficient on our delivery of
Mm.
service and the way that we communicate internally to reduce the amount of time that of this back and forth lost communication? And so by tackling that, we can get a lot more juice. First of all, teams, individuals feel better because now they feel more connected and inspired as a part of a team that's working in harmony and unison, but also they can take on more without it being overwhelming because you're just spending more time focusing on the work that matters instead of work about the work.
Yeah. Fascinating. So maybe if you're feeling, man, I don't have enough people, I don't have enough people, what I'm hearing Chase say, Chase, some of this is accurate, is fixing some of these systems, operational kind of vision, getting to a goal and having someone help you execute, you can get a lot more efficiency out of an existing team. Maybe there's a place to hire, and maybe we'll talk about that next. Of course, there's always a place to hire, but perhaps it's inefficiencies with your existing team that might help you start running at a faster clip. Is that about right?
Oh, yeah, that's about right. And that
Okay.
pace is often set by a CEO or the most senior operations person. And if you try the experiment, if you try and increase the pace and see what breaks and see where people complain to just get a better understanding of, okay, what can we solve internally before we're hiring additional people to help? We're thinking about
Hmm.
systems, process, rituals, habits, behavior, automations, could be tech stack. It's like there's a whole slew of things that could be considered to help the people focus on only what the people can do and not all the
I
stuff
love that.
around the work.
Yeah. Okay. Fascinating. What role does this play, like all of this process that we're describing and the things we're not talking about quite, today? Because I know there's a lot we haven't got to. But for an industry and for clients I talk with, leads I talk with, people I meet on the showroom floor at different events, how does this help with maybe one of the most common feelings in our space, which is the feeling of burnout? Have you found that this gives people new life in this business, that they enjoy it and they can stay? Does this relate to that?
100%. 100%. And sometimes when I run into companies that have this operational deficit, it's almost like a black hole. It's almost like as a CEO, like I can't take time off. There's
Yeah.
no chance because everything will fall apart. Again, that's that effect of being the best performing piston inside the engine. Well, I can't stop. The engine will stop if I do. By building this infrastructure and context, you get your time back. And in
Mm,
fact, you're shifting out of spending your days reactively and firefighting and in a sense of urgency, which is harmful to the nervous system. You're just constantly on, constantly looking at your phone. Here comes a new message. Oh my God. And that high pace can be can be great for performance for a while. But long term, it can be a huge detriment to your health. That is what can lead to burnout. So why not instead shift to a model where things feel proactive, they feel strategic, and they feel more
mm,
creative in the way that you're going about your work? So things slow down and you can bring your best mental faculties instead of feeling rushed all the time. And
yeah.
that shift happens when you have, instead of the CEO existing as this operational infrastructure, again, that piston working really hard, we build operational infrastructure to be the operational infrastructure. This context, this
Yes.
intersection of people, technology, process,
Mm,
culture that exists without you so that you can step out. And teams love it. When we consistently work with teams when we come in, they're just like, thank you. It's about time to have this. And
yeah.
so many teams want to help the CEO through this. They know they're smart.
Mm, I like that. Well, let's take this down a little bit further. I think if I'm listening to this still, and you've made it 40 plus minutes in, I'm probably asking myself, how do I make a step forward? And you guys have an operations audit, if I'm not mistaken. Can you tell us more about that tool? If I'm sitting here saying, what's my next step here, Chase? What does that look like with the operations audit?
Yeah, we do. So on our website, we have a short, free 10-question assessment that will
Mm,
evaluate your firm's operations. It's very simple, but it
mm,
helps know where to look, know where to begin. And by completing that, we give you a score and some guidance on how to fix common operational problems if you score certain areas lower than others. We do this, we
mm,
send a relatively large and thorough PDF. It's about 19 pages,
mm.
I believe. We
Wow.
call this our operations improvement guide for accounting firms. And it offers practical advice to install this operational infrastructure yourself so that you can get the freedom that you might always have wanted.
Mm, I love that. Okay, so we'll drop the link to the operations audit from Human at Scale, Chase's site for y'all to get in the show notes. And we'll blast that out as well when we post this podcast. So if you're getting this email or this podcast via email or from a note from our team, Please click that link. Free tool, 10 questions, right, Chase? 10 questions and a
10 questions.
19-page PDF.
That's it.
And man, you might listen to this podcast, obviously, as we're in busy season. This might not be September or October, but if you're listening to this in September or October, tell me more about timing, right, Chase? I mean, especially in this industry, having more time to work on this right now. Obviously, the best time would have been yesterday, but is there time to make changes before the end of the year that actually are felt as we head into quote unquote busy season?
Yeah, there's plenty of time. In fact, some of the way our diagnostic works is we can identify the highest leverage tactics to install that gets you much further instead of going through this large overhaul. Although
Okay.
we can do large overhaul too. We understand team bandwidth to be able to take on new things just mentally.
Yeah.
We don't want to burden people with okay, here's like one more thing that we have to do.
Right. Right. No, I love that. Okay, so there's a shorter abbreviated version, there's the long version. You've got some options with Chase. And Chase, I think we'll kind of head towards the end here, but I want to ask you maybe two final questions. The first is if someone is stuck in the weeds right now, is the first thing you'd recommend they do go grab that operations audit? Is there something else? And then the second is just what did we not cover today that you wanted to say? Anything parting thoughts? Take us to that first one first.
So the first one, if someone out there feels stuck in the weeds, I want you to know that you're not alone.
Mhm.
This issue is so common. It's so common. It has very little to do with you and the way that you are. And you might be beating yourself up about this. You might be considering, I just want to burn this all down. I just want to go back to when it was me and my two bookkeepers and things, and I made more money that way. If you choose to continue, know that you can. Know that you are not the
Yeah.
first individual to have experienced this issue. It is incredibly common. And try the assessment. Try the assessment. It is the best first step you can take to start putting words to your experience. This is
Mm.
what becoming problem aware is all about. Is you might feel again your nervous system might be a little bit dysregulated. You have a ton of ideas, maybe some shiny object syndrome. You know, you're reading books and podcasts, you're trying to escape that black hole. What we are offering is a way to put
Mm.
words to all this and start organizing your thinking so that you can take action on one piece at a time. So there is a pathway out, and that's why I want folks to take that assessment.
Okay. You got the assessment before you guys. It's right there. It's a free tool. Huge amount of feedback from Chase and his team that they've put together, depending on how you score. I think it's 1,000% worth your time. And again, the link will be in the notes. Chase, this was wonderful. I've really enjoyed this, man. I've got people I'm thinking of we might kick your way. I want to see more people not just get leads and have effective marketing, but the next step is have a business they love. That's always connected to growing your businesses. You've got some goals you want to hit, some things you want to achieve, whatever those may be. But this is a huge part of it. If you're going to build the firm, the accounting tax firm, the bookkeeping firm, whatever it is you may be doing, if you're going to find yourself in a position in a number of years, some of it does take time, some of it's quick, reward and fruit for just doing some of this work. But I think consistency in this direction, if you're feeling right now like you kind of hate your business, here's one step to move forward towards a door that you didn't know was there. Um, Chase, one more time, any final things we didn't hit today that you wanted to mention?
I just want to say I appreciate your welcome into the profession and have been blown away with the quality and heart of folks that I have met within this profession. Every firm
Hmm.
owner that I have met has felt very deep in service, very caring, teams loving them.
Hmm.
And that's why I love to see great cultures really propagate. I've been so excited to meet more professionals in this profession, and I'm very happy to be here.
There we go. Chase, you're a gift. Thanks for being here. Guys, thanks for tuning in to the Pro Marketer Podcast. We'll have some more guests coming up in the coming weeks, and maybe we'll have Chase back sometime in the future just to do a follow-up and get a little more in the weeds, maybe with case studies or other examples or things. But Chase, thank you for your time. Thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for serving. And until next time, guys, we'll let this be the end for now. And we hope you have a great fall if you're listening now. And if you're in the middle of busy season, we hope you're keeping your head up. And if you need some help, that audit is still probably a great thing to do, even if you're in the middle of it. So we're here to help. Chase is here to help, and we hope that this served you guys well. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.